It's time for Media Watch. We're joined by James Creedon. He's here. We're dealing first of all with reaction online to the fate of the stricken cruise liner off the coast of Tuscany. It's been reported, James, that more people have been recovered dead from this ship. So clearly the situation is going from bad to worse.
Beginning to end.
You found various remarks regarding the captain.
Lots of reaction, and indeed the captain of that ship, Francesco Schettino, has become a sort of a hate figure. Let's listen to one piece of audio that has come out today where he was speaking to the Coast Guard after having allegedly or apparently abandoned ship. This is hours before the last passengers were evacuated. So let's take a listen.
I'm here with the rescue teams. I'm down below. I'm not going anywhere.
Get back on board. That's an order. You have abandoned the ship. Now I give the orders.
But do you realize it's dark and we can't see anything?
What do you plan on doing? Go home?
That is quite chilling stuff, because being British and having had various members of my family in the Merchant Navy and that kind of thing, the captain, I learned from a very early age, never abandons ship until the last person has left.
This is it. It's sort of a code of honour, I suppose you could say. And we'll have a look at some of the British press reaction in a sec. But what they've been saying in the Italian press, and this has been picked up in Le Point here in France, there was a sister ship to the stricken Concordia by the name of Serena. Now, he was the second in command on that ship, and under the orders of a guy called Terenzio Palombo. Now, he was the captain of that particular ship back in around 2000. He has spoken to the press saying that the captain of the Concordia was reckless, always wanted to show that he was the best. He had to be called into order on a number of called into line on a number of different occasions. He was like a guy trying to drive a bus around a Ferrari circuit, so he says. Now, I suppose it is easy to lay all the blame at the door of the captain, but it does seem, based on what we've been hearing, what we've been seeing, that he certainly behaved extremely recklessly and then abandoned ship in a move that I suppose you could say is very lacking in courage. And here you have Toby Young, perhaps taking it a little bit too far, saying if the captain of the Costa Concordia had been British, would he have abandoned ship? But he's pointing out comparisons with the captain of the Titanic.
Sure.
Back in the day, who stayed on the ship, who became a sort of a hero because he put honour above and ahead of his own safety. And so not alone did he behave recklessly, but I suppose more unforgivably, he then seems to have abandoned the ship several hours before his duties were completed in terms of getting the passengers off.
Okay, it's worth adding, he denies manslaughter. He's in police custody in Italy. What's the next story?
The next story, Mark, is, I suppose you could say, the opposite of that in some senses. This is a British Airways message error warning passengers of a crash. Now, this was last Saturday on a flight.
Sorry, warning passengers actually on the flight.
This was at 3 in the morning between Miami and Heathrow, halfway through that overnight flight, and it was an automatic message that went off by accident saying we're about to land on water, emergency landing up ahead, essentially crash landing. So, of course, as you would expect, 3 a.m, people are, asleep on board, but panic almost immediately, women and children crying. One man said by the time they got back to Heathrow Airport, where they were promptly met with printed off apologies by British Airways, that it was the most traumatic experience of his life. That's what one passenger said. But it's an extraordinary mistake to have made, and apparently it also happened last year on a flight between Hong Kong and Heathrow, also BA. So BA, they'd want to be a little bit careful with those automatic messages traumatizing their passengers, I think it's fair to say.
Someone pressed the wrong button, someone triggered the wrong switch, someone did what?
Right, but it's kind of one of those mistakes you just wouldn't want to make, really. And they immediately retracted the mistake and said, look, just disregard that previous message. We're not about to
women
crash land.
And children crying. I suspect some men were crying too, because what would you imagine is going to happen if you hear that?
It's a pretty traumatizing thing to hear.
Outrageous.
On a flight. Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on. James has a story now about how all isn't rosy in the Kim Garden in North Korea.
Right.
Not that you thought it was.
This is the supposed heir apparent. His name was Kim Jong-sam.
Kim Jong-un, the man who was taken over from the deceased dear leader, as they call him.
Yes.
He's actually the youngest son, isn't he?
That's right. And his half-brother, Kim Jong-nam, was he was the heir apparent, but there was this trip. He's best known for having tried to get into Japan to go to Disney World Japan. Disney World Japan. That didn't work out too well because he had faked a visa, etc. Yeah. Now, he has spoken to a Japanese journalist, met him 3 times over the course of the last 7 years. There were several emails exchanged. I'll give you the highlights. A book is coming out all about this. He has predicted the regime will fail. He has said Kim Jong-un, that is the guy who's now leader, is still just a nominal figure, and the members of the power elite still are the ones in power. He goes on to dish a load of dirt on various things that have happened. It's pretty extraordinary stuff, and he just says that this guy is a puppet leader, essentially, and that he's not the real power on the throne, and all sorts of other stuff.
So not madly surprising, but it's from a surprising source.
Exactly.
That's
one detail that is interesting, though. He never met Kim Jong-un. They're half brothers, but they've never actually met. So
you go.
know, it's not exactly like he really loves him.
It's
or
not
knows him very
exactly
well.
happy families, is it? Let's face it.
There you go.
James, thank you very
All right,
much
thanks,
indeed.
Mark.
James Creedon there with Media Watch. Stay with us. We've got much more to come here live from Paris, including in the sport, how speculation's increasing about Carlos Tevez perhaps coming to sign at Paris Saint-Germain. Speculation not just in Paris, but coming out of Manchester as well. Stay with us.